we're going to talk about off the plan property. Now, it has been considered and talked about by many people as a dirty word. It's been suggested that you should never buy off the plan. So today, I want to explain why that is the case or why it is not the case. I want to answer as many of your questions as I can. And I want to just put this to you before we get into the detail. You know, don't let a few rotten eggs spoil the whole batch. There is no doubt that there's some shonks and some shysters out there that will do what some of these commentators talk about, but the vast majority of off-the-plan projects can be a great investment. It's just really, really important that you understand what it means to be buying off the plan, what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, what are the pitfalls, because like any home buying, you might only ever do this once. So we can't expect you to have the vast experience and be doing this day in, day out. That's why we're hoping to share with you our experience and some of the reasons why it can be a great investment for you and why it may not suit you, so that you can make an informed decision. And as I said, ultimately, you can take back the control and decide if it's right for you rather than allowing others to dictate to you their beliefs. So I'll invite the rest of the people on. Come on, guys. Hey, gents. Jack, welcome. Good. The shortest man sitting next to me, so I feel a bit better. The tallest two on the end. So welcome, guys. I first must just say, this is last minute. I did mention it for those of you that didn't join here. We did have a guest doing all of today's session. He pulled out this morning. He didn't say that he had corona. Who knows why? He just pulled out. So the guys have quickly cobbled something together. But I'm really excited about this topic because I think it is something that is really worthy discussing at any time. But particularly, you know, we've been discussing the last few weeks about rentals, you know, the amount of population growth that will happen over the next few years, and 2022 being the year of the apartments and inner city markets coming back. So what better time than to talk about off the plan? You know, coupled with the fact that that is obviously our area of expertise, and we've got some great projects. So, you know, no doubt, we hope, if this sounds like something interesting to you, that you do chat with us because we've got some great projects that we'd love to share with you. So let's hit it off first. I'm just going to rapid fire because I've seen plenty of questions coming through here. So hopefully the guys will share it. I know they like to hog the mic. I can see Greg's already got it, so he'll probably answer this first up. Can you tell all our viewers just quickly, what exactly is off the plan? You know, for us, we just roll with it every day, but can you sort of break it down for the simple person what it means?
It sounds obviously we see it very, very simply, but off the plan is exactly that. So it's something that is not there. You've got a piece of land or you've got a thing, and you're basically buying a property from a drawing off the plan. So it's off the plan. That's what you're doing.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a little bit like an IOU that, you know, the builder or the developer promises to build you something.
Yep.
And you take on that promise and you say, if you deliver on your promise, I promise to pay you.
Pay you, correct. So there's that's our core business, is where we develop in inner city, South Bank. We buy land, we design a building. We then take this plans to the buyers. They can have a look, and there's quite a lot of options. It's quite a very good way of securing property.
So for those skeptics on the phone that make promises to their wives or husbands or kids about being home at a certain time, that they'll do certain things, they'll buy things from the shops or whatever it is, you know, how does this differ in terms of, you know, what is the process, you know, involved in buying off the plan? How is that promise actually documented or put down into writing? Because I promise I'll be home at a certain time every day, and I never ever deliver on that promise.
Well, there is a standard contract of sale that it's very important when that you get your lawyer to look through that and make sure that you're dealing with a reputable builder or developer. So have a look at that. It's very detailed in that contract of what you're buying. So there's a plan. There's telling you when it's going to happen. There's a schedule of finishes, you know, typically, so you've got a good idea of what you're buying into.
Okay, Lucas, you know, what are some of the pitfalls or tips that you can suggest to people? You know, Greg said, right, there's a contract and the schedules and so forth, but for most of our people on the line, They've probably never ever signed a contract to purchase real estate before, or they don't really read it, they rely on their lawyers. What are some things that you can, suggest to people that they should consider before diving into it, or perhaps ways that they can make sure they're getting a deal that suits them?
Look, James, when you're making a purchase, it's always risky. There's always pitfalls, and even more when it's off the plan. So I guess what the purchasers need to do, first of all, make sure they do research on the developer, on the background. Have they done other projects? Have they delivered on time? Have they delivered what they promised? Because this day and age with online, everything is available to everybody. Also, make sure that they have a solicitor that understands the off-the-plan contracts, so that they can give them the right advice. Things like sunset clause, when would the project be delivered?
So sorry, just to cut over you for a second, and maybe if someone else has got this, you might explain to us in a little bit more detail about sunset clauses and what they mean. But, obviously, as Greg said, you're buying a property that is not yet built and you're taking on someone else's promise to build it. Typically, how long is that process, and what can you sort of expect in terms of that time frame? There we go. Look, they're graciously sharing. I could see Lucas was shaking with his hand to hand over the mic.
I think, James, it really depends on the different projects. If you got a large projects, obviously it will take a little bit longer than the small projects. It's normally take maybe, for example, 2 years to complete the medium to large size of project. However, it really depends on, like Lucas mentioned, the developers. If you had the good developer has a good reputation, they might, just finish the project as soon as possible, so the people can, have the property ready within the certain time frame.
So I guess, if we're talking about a townhouse, that might be very much quicker than, say, a 30, 40, 50 level apartment project.
Yes.
Because last time I checked, it takes longer to build 50 levels than it does to build 2.
Exactly.
And I guess, before we let Lucas run back into his tips, is that where, both Greg and Lucas were sort of mentioning that you need to look for a reputable developer and delays and so forth, that there is an industry standard time that certain things will take, but good developers can do them quicker, or at least match that time. Inexperienced people, it could go on and on and on. Indefinitely.
Exactly. Like we did so many projects, and any of the project we did will be much more earlier than the expectation of the completion time. So that's because we got experience. We know what's going to happen during the whole process. We might already have a prediction of the risk. We can survive that as quick as we can. So everything is, like Lucas said, it's dealing with experienced, reputable developer, which is the big benefit for the purchaser.
Yeah. And I guess, for buyers, you might be thinking, why is that so important? Well, just think about it. You're excited. You brought a new home. You want to have Christmas 2024 in your home. It can make a difference to you whether you can plan around that with confidence that you're going to be in your new home, or whether you're going to end up stuck in your rental, or still stuck with mum and dad, maybe, because, as much as you love mum and dad, it could be too much. Greg wanted to run out of mum and dad's home at age 16. So it really all depends, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
All right, Lucas, keep giving us the tips.
Yeah. Look, one of the other tips is, when you're buying off the plan, make sure you research the area you want to buy in, and make sure you're not paying too much for a property. Obviously, there's a number of developers around, and they're all selling at a different price. So it's very important, when you do get into the market, or when you do buy your next property, especially if it's an investment, make sure you purchase at the right price, because it's very important to start off on the right foot.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess, for those that are perhaps thinking, but why can't I just see by the people that are there? Obviously, it's very different to walking into a completed home, because there could be hundreds of apartments being sold, and you could be skewed by the fact that a particular new project that might have 1,000 apartments could have 20, 30 people in their display and you think, wow, this is busy, compared to say a project that's only got 10 homes, you know, having 2 or 3 people could be a hell of a lot more comparatively. And it's, I hate to say this, but, you know, going back to when we said that there are a few bad eggs, it would be hard for me to deny that developers have a bad reputation for wearing white shoes and charging too much and trying to get rich, right? And so, and I guess that's why you talk about people's track record, you talk about their reputation, because those developers that have been doing project after project after project got to be doing something right, because you can only burn customers so many times before you don't have a business anymore. I mean, you know, we all know that. We all know, you know, if we go to a particular restaurant or cafe and the service is terrible, the food is terrible, the experience is terrible, we don't go back. And so that's sort of almost one of those things without even knowing, if a developer's been doing it over and over and over again, they've already got one tick. Now, that doesn't guarantee, but you've got to feel a bit more confident that they've got to be doing something right.
100%. You know, there's a lot of first-time developers that don't even have the financial backing, James. And this is where a lot of them fall in a pitfall. They assume, oh, we're going to get top price, we're going to get all these sales. When they don't have the funding behind them to be able to continue. So it is very important to look into that. But I want to go into another important tip, and that is displays. So when you're buying off the plan, you visit a display suite, you see these amazing finishes and everything. So a big sort of pitfall for people is they don't realize that with every project, there's a number of different finishes. So you can get upgrade finishes and the basic finishes. So a lot of the developers will have the display looking like $1 million, but that might only be for the penthouses or apartments worth over $2 million. So you...
What, shock horror, you're telling me that people actually build their best to display you with and then sell you the worst?
Yeah, you might say that. So, you know, it's important to know when you do enter a display suite to ask those kind of questions. Say, look, is this the finishes that I will be getting in my apartment, or do I have to pay extra to take those finishes? Because, you know, somebody walks in, sees these finishes, when they look at their apartment, maybe they didn't go through their contract with the solicitor correctly to know from the beginning. Then when it comes time for settlement, they find themselves, you know, with a huge shock.
And I've seen a lot of questions coming through, but I want to ask this for myself. So, you know, how can that sort of differ if, you know, I'm going into, I love going to the Gold Coast. It's sunny, it's warm, the beaches are great. I love surfing, as you guys know. And, you know, you walk along Surfers Paradise, you go down the main strip, Cavill Avenue, and the mall there, and there's probably 3 or 4 real estate agents with displays in their office. How does that sort of differ visiting a display hosted in a real estate agent's office versus going direct to one that's hosted by the developer in their own office?
Look, yeah, you can go through that. Yeah. You know, you've got to remember, as you always talk about, agents can be shonky. Is the
1,
word.
2, 3, 4.
However,
we can say that.
But as developers, which we are as well, a developer, especially when you're doing this for a long term, as we have been doing, you try and put forward your best product because you know you want to repeat that.
Yeah.
So you're going to make a display that represents a lot closer to what the product that you're going to deliver, because ultimately you've got to take responsibility for that.
Yeah.
An agent just wants to do a deal, sell it. It doesn't really care about the finishes. So that's a very good point, is that you can actually, that's a lot better to go to the developer's display than to
maybe I should jump on the viewer's side and start asking myself a few more questions.
And just the other thing I was saying, we've talked about all the negativity, but there's a lot of pros about buying off the plan as well.
All right, well, let Tip Man finish off his tips.
Yes.
Then I might circle back to you for some of the benefits.
Look, I mean, other than that, you know, they're really the risks. You know, maybe the project might not be completed because if a developer hasn't got the financial backing or doesn't get the sales, the display suite. I mean, you know, there's a lot of things. The other part, and I'm not sure, you got to really research into the building itself as well, James, because, you know, you buy in a building, you might be an owner-occupier, and you might buy in a building that has got 1,500 apartments and 800 of them are Airbnb or a part of a hotel. And this might not be what you're looking for, doesn't suit your style. Or they might have an amazing gym and pool on level 40, and they say, no, but only the people that live on the penthouses can use it. So you got to really look into the details, because it's all about the finer details.
Yeah. And look, I think the best tip I can give you, there is no question too stupid to ask. So you remember, whoever you're going to visit, they're all salespeople. They've all got the incentive to make the sale. So ask any question you can. As Lucas said, don't feel embarrassed, don't feel uneasy to ask those questions, because ultimately that is how you'll conquer those fears. That is how you'll make sure you understand it, because that can be a big difference, that if all the reasons why you chose to pick this as your new home, based on particular features, particular finishes and so forth, is actually not what you're getting. And that is the hard thing. Look, Greg's going to tell us all the benefits, so I don't want to dwell on the negatives too much, but definitely the reason why off the plan can get a bad name is because you can't see it, touch it, feel it. You do have to have faith in the developer, the builder, the agents that are selling it, that what they're representing to you and what's in the contract will be delivered as promised. And the best way you can do that is to do your research, buy from someone with a track record, buy from someone you feel comfortable with, and ultimately see if you can see some of the past projects, because that's the best indication. If it's run down, it's broken, or they say we don't have any past projects, well, kind of answers your question. So Greg, we've dwelled on some of the pitfalls.
Yeah.
Now tell us, off the plan is a big market here in Australia.
Yep.
It's, well documented with our laws. There's plenty of protections for purchasers.
Yep.
Let's talk about, the fundamentals. Why is it such a good opportunity, and why do so many people that understand it jump on it and love buying off the plan?
Well, first of all, you don't have to have all the money up front initially. So that's a key thing. So if you're a first homeowner or you're looking to get into investment property, it gives you time to be able to either get the finance or save some more money. Initially, all you would need is a 10% deposit. So that secures you the property, then gives you time to get the balance or get the finance and stuff that you need down the track.
So what you're saying is, maybe you've got 10% available now.
Yep.
You need another 10%, and that might take you 2 years to save. If you've got a project that's going to take 2 to 3 years to be finished,
gives you that
you can
lead
buy
time.
it today,
Absolutely.
lock in today's price and keep saving.
That's the point I was saying, that you're locking in today's price for something that's going to go up with the way things are moving, that are going to go up in the future. So that's a key thing. Firstly, is allowing you to get into the market, get your foot on something, and to get the savings in place.
And it's kind of good to have a target, because I know we can all get swayed by the latest shoes, the latest watch, whatever it might be. But when you've got a deadline and a timing, you've got to focus in and do it, don't you?
Absolutely.
I know you're always looking at something new to purchase, but when you've got that deadline, I've got to save. And a lot of us need that discipline.
Yeah. The other key things, a lot of the time, there's a lot incented in terms of stamp duty savings. So currently, there's a 50% reduction in stamp duty.
Mm-hmm.
First homeowners, however, there's always up to certain thresholds, they wouldn't pay any stamp duty. So there you're going, savings, deposit, and then already you've got another big saving in terms of stamp duties.
Yeah. And Jack, what about owner-occupiers and stamp duty if you're buying off the plan? How does that sort of work? Because I know there's another big benefit there.
Yes, the owner-occupiers who buy in the off the plan is sort of like still have the certain portion of the stamp duty saving, depends on the different state. And currently in Victoria, I think it's 50% stamp duty saving, and like Greg said, at certain price points. But I would like to also mention the other benefits. I think Greg gonna mention, but I want to say
steal them off him. Take it. That end of the panel's been stealing everything.
It's off the plan. It's got the possibility to give what the most wants, the floor plan, and any change you want to make in your future home, which is the the complete home you cannot achieve, because for any of the planned project and property, you can say, okay, it's possible to make the bedroom like I like it, the bathroom like a different finish, and like make your dream becomes true. So that's the big benefit, I think, for the people excited to have the new home.
Yeah. Now, I know over the decades we've had a lot of interesting people do a lot of interesting changes. I think, Lucas, one of the funniest things we've had from one of your buyers is who wanted no doors anywhere. I don't know why, but I guess, Jack, that's what you're saying. If you want to build it with no doors, you can do that.
Yep.
Greg's recently had some buyers that wanted to change the floor plan completely, make a raised level and a study and a weird sort of storage device. And look, it was odd, I'll tell you, but it's what they wanted, and I think they're wrapped with the outcome. They couldn't be happier with it. So that's an interesting point you make, I guess, that at the time of buying, making those changes up front are far easier and cheaper to do then and there, and sometimes they can become impossible to do later down the track.
Yeah.
So, when we think about paying the deposit, I guess there's other options. Maybe you do have the money. What are some of the other ways that make buying off the plan unique and give you the ability to not necessarily need to have cash to buy that deposit?
Okay, the other one we often talk about is, or you can get it over there, is using a guarantee.
I think they were fighting over not wanting to answer the question I saw there. If it didn't come through, there was a look of horror from everyone.
Yeah, you can use a bank guarantee, James. So, for instance, your parents might have a situation where they've got a home and they can actually use that home to give you a guarantee, so you don't need the cash.
Yep.
So then it allows you as a first homeowner to get into the property, get your foot on it, without actually having any cash, because you can put up a bank guarantee.
Yeah. Okay. I see a lot more questions coming through, but I've just noticed the time, so we might put a pin in there. If you've still got more questions, drop them in the comments or the Q&A, and we'll get back to you with those answers. But one of the things we didn't touch on, it's a brand new home. So all the things we've been talking about, week after week, month after month, about a brand new home, they all apply to this as well. So as Jack said, you can craft it to what you want. You've got the benefits of stamp duty. There's things you've got to look out for, but all the things we've talked about having a brand new home, I think maybe a month ago, we had our CFO, Derek, on here explain the difference between depreciation in a brand new home versus an existing second-hand home. That all applies when you're buying off the plan. The stamp duty, Greg, I think you and I have done a few sessions on that as well.
Yep.
That all applies. Everything that comes with a brand new home. Lucas has talked about the smell of fresh paint and it being nice.
Energy efficiencies, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, even, I guess there's a big push for cleaner, greener, more environmentally friendly things. You obviously get that from a new build. There may be some builders, developers that go even further and breathe and live that, but ultimately the laws force everything to be built efficiently and environmentally friendly. Right down to things, I think, Greg, you were touching on before about, your power bills can be cheaper because it's more energy efficient. You've got more options to do, what you might want to do, as well as things that we haven't even touched in terms
like
of embedded
glazing,
networks.
et cetera. Yeah.
So it's really good, as well as obviously the benefits of having communal facilities that are the latest, greatest, and the designs and the look.
And no repairs, James, for a very, very long time. Everything is brand new, and you're not going to have the surprise of, the hot water system breaking down or your tap or something like that.
Yeah, and if it does, I guess you've got the warranty, because some things do happen.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg.
All right, so as I said, if you've got more questions, drop them in the comments or the Q&A section. The guys are going to stay here while I just quickly wrap up and identify a bit of a pathway as to how we can move forward. So